Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. Learn more and find additional podcasts at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's June 24th, and on this day in 2007, it was a watershed moment for the U.S. men's national soccer team. So, yesterday, we talked about the Landon Donovan goal in stoppage time to beat Algeria in the 2010 World Cup to win the game and the group stage. Well, for any great moment like that, there are building block moments that may happen a day, a week, a month, or even years before that put an individual or a team on a certain trajectory. And you can certainly argue that what happened on this day in 2007 had zero bearing on what happened in the 2010 World Cup. But hear me out. This is the Gold Cup Concacaf final between the U.S. and Mexico, or El Tri, as they are also referred as. The U.S. was still a bit shell-shocked from their disappointing 2006 World Cup appearance the year before, where they did not win a game. Mexico took a 1-0 lead in this one and held that until Landon Donovan scored on a penalty kick in the 62nd minute. Now, in the 73rd minute, the U.S. had a corner kick that Donovan took and put into the 18. It was headed by a defender and popped up in the air outside the 18. Benny Feilhaber saw the ball coming his way and knew what he was going to do with it. Donovan saw Feilhaber lining up a shot and he was screaming, "No, no, no!" 100 yards away, U.S. keeper Tim Howard could see what Feilhaber was setting up for as well, and he had the same thought as Landon. Don't shoot, possess the ball, pass it wide. But Feilhaber didn't hear any of that. But then again, he had a history of doing things others thought that he couldn't. He walked on at UCLA, he played in the Bundesliga, he made the national team. But in all fairness to Donovan and Howard, the shot Feilhaber was lining up and getting ready to take was a low percentage shot. But Feilhaber struck the volley perfectly, and his shot arced beautifully into the back of the net. It is one of the best goals you will ever see, and it was surely one of the best goals scored by a U.S. player in an international match. Feilhaber's goal gave the U.S. the 2-1 advantage, and thanks to some Golden Glove work by Timmy Howard, the U.S. held on to win the Gold Cup title. Now, how did that figure into the 2010 World Cup 3 years later? Well, the Gold Cup title they won on this day qualified them for the 2009 Confederations Cup tournament that eventually led to a game against heavily favored Spain that the U.S. won 2-0. Everybody who was involved with the success the U.S. men had at the 2010 World Cup know that the win on this day 3 years earlier, aided by Benny Feilhaber's goal, played a pivotal role in that success. In 1921, golfer Bobby Jones was a 19-year-old amateur playing in the Open Championship at St Andrews in Scotland. His first 2 rounds had gone well. An opening round 78 and a second round 74 put him in contention, 5 shots behind the leader. His third round, however, did not go well. After making the turn in a disappointing 46, he made a double bogey on 10 and then found himself in some trouble on the 11th. He wound up in one of those cavernous bunkers that Scottish courses are well known for, and it took him 4 shots to extricate his ball from it. That effort frustrated Jones, who, when remembering what happened years later, admitted that the wonders of Scottish-style links golf were perplexing to him in that moment. He was not a fan of St Andrews and had no appreciation for its subtle difficulties. After putting out for another 6 at the 11th, Jones tore up his scorecard and he stormed off the course. He lamented that move years later, saying it was his petulant, youthful nature. But the man that would come to epitomize style and grace on the golf course later in his career returned to Great Britain in 1926, and he won at Royal Lytham and St Anne's, and then came back to play St Andrews in 1927, to win for the second straight year. In 1977, Eddie Stankey stepped down as manager of the Texas Rangers. That doesn't seem like much of a story on the face of it. The night before, Stankey had managed his team to a 10-8 win over the Minnesota Twins. In fact, he had a winning record as the Rangers manager. What makes this story unusual, though, is that Stankey stepped down after managing just one game for the Rangers. He had been lured away from the collegiate ranks to take the place of Frank Lucchese. But after a sleepless night and knowing he had made a mistake, he called his wife and told her he was coming back home. He then told a stunned Rangers front office he was resigning. He was given his old job back as the baseball coach at the University of South Alabama. Stankey, who had coached the Jaguars since 1969, said he got homesick and just needed to go back home. The Rangers hired Connie Ryan on an interim basis to fill the newly vacated spot. And on this day in 1968, Detroit Tiger outfielder Jim Northrup joined a rare fraternity when he hit a pair of grand slams in one game. He came up in the fifth against Cleveland's Eddie Fisher and blasted his first grand slam. Then in the sixth, he hit his second off of relief pitcher Bill Rohr. At this point, it was only the second time in Major League history that a batter had his grand slams in consecutive innings. The Tigers went on to win the game 14-3. Time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? The first Google Doodle was created in 1998. The staff was heading out to Burning Man, and it was an out-of-office doodle with a stick figure behind the second O. That's all for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Dish. This Day in Sports History is a member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. You can learn more and find additional podcasts at sportshistorynetwork.com. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.